Today I will introduce to you a novel called After Opening My Eyes, My Disciple Became the Great Devil Empress. The male protagonist of the story is Ye Shen. After many years of closed-door cultivation, Ye Shen's cultivation has become exaggerated. His strength has increased greatly, and his body is indestructible. After his closed-door cultivation, he is almost the strongest person. However, no matter how immortal he is, he cannot help but be shocked by the many changes in the world when he walks out of the mountain gate. The tale starts with Bai Qingge, covered in wounds, leaning against a large rock. Tears streaming down her face, Bai Xiaohe, standing right next to her, asks if her senior sister is all right. With one hand cradling her injured form and the other wiping away the crimson stain on her lips, Bai Qingge uttered the single word, "I'm fine," her voice betraying no hint of the pain she endured. However, the two of them are hiding behind a large rock. In front of the rock, there are nearly 20 women in black with their faces covered and swords in their hands, filled with murderous intent. At this rate, it is certain that the two of them will not be able to escape. The leader of the group snorted angrily. She was angry that the two people hiding behind the rock had offended the female emperor and still wanted to escape. With such a heinous crime, she advised the two people in front of her to obediently tie themselves up. Infuriated, Bai Xiaohe rose to her feet, disregarding the hostility surrounding her. She firmly denied the accusations, stating that she and the other person merely participated in a ritual at Wuji sect. During the ceremony, she simply voiced a question, whether worshipping someone in such a manner wouldn't incur punishment from the heavens. This seemingly innocent inquiry, however, has turned them into targets for persecution. Bai Xiaohe shouted angrily, pointing at the people in black behind her. She thought that the Limitless sect was a demonic cult that treated human life like grass. The woman in the lead repeated Xiaohe's words and asked her how she could be so curious without knowing that the person Xiaohe was talking about was the master of the female emperor. Hearing the sound, both sisters jolted upright, their eyes wide with disbelief. Could it be? Before the two of them could finish speaking, the black-clothed woman confirmed that it was indeed that person, the legendary Supreme Demon. He held immense power, not only as the master of the female emperor, but also as the ancient emperor of the south. Every assassin from the Wangshe city owed their skills to him. To declare him deserving punishment from the heavens was audacious, especially coming from mere pawns like Xiaohe and Qingge. With a swift explanation and a drawn sword, she launched an attack at their hiding place. However, a sudden burst of dazzling light interrupted her, leaving everyone bewildered about the unforeseen turn of events. A blurry figure suddenly appeared on the top of the mountain. This person was Ye Shen, the headmaster of the Xuanji sect. This person appeared with a very handsome face. After a world-shaking battle, he seemed to be still not satisfied with his cultivation realm because he felt that he had not made any breakthroughs after 100 years of closed-door cultivation. Looking at his body and the movements of his hands, this person secretly sighed that his body had become holy and was now considered immortal. He could be considered to have successfully emerged from closed-door cultivation. Then he jumped again, creating a whirlwind that pushed back all the black-clothed people earlier. The leader of the black-clothed people sensed that an expert had appeared and immediately ordered his men to retreat to save their lives and report back to their master. As for this young man, he stood from a distance, smugly nodding to himself, satisfied with his own power after all the hard work. The dust and smoke cleared, and he suddenly realized that there were two figures hiding behind a large rock where he had split the mountain range in two earlier. He was terrified that he had injured the two girls. To quickly confirm, he jumped from the top of the mountain on this side to where the two sisters were sitting. After landing with a thud, he immediately asked about the two girls' condition. Xiaohe and Qinger then told him the whole story of being chased. The man, acknowledging the name Wuji sect, pondered it. Though impressed, he believed his own title, Xuanji sect, held greater power. He scoffed at the female emperor's self-proclaimed title, finding it audacious. Yet, regardless of the title's arrogance, he deemed killing someone unjustified. He contrasted this situation to his own disciple, Luan Yana, subtly implying such actions wouldn't occur under his guidance. Xiao He, observing this exchange, understood the man's high standing and presumed his disciple to possess equally noble qualities. Sensing the conversation had reached an impasse, the man requested to leave, allowing the girls to settle their differences. With that, he took a single agile leap, effortlessly traversing the mountain ahead. Filled with admiration for the stranger, Xiao He wondered if she'd ever see someone of such stature again. Her sister, however, stood petrified, face pale. Recognizing the woman as their attempted assassin, Luan Yana, Qinger immediately dropped to her knees. Meanwhile, the man, still filled with curiosity about his long-lost students, remained oblivious to the tension. Hundreds of years in the past, a band of wounded figures cried out to their master, who stirred awake. A woman, her voice heavy with supplication, approached him and addressed him as master. With concern, she inquired if he truly intended to abandon his child in pursuit of secluded cultivation. Standing firm, the man spoke confidently, vowing that no one would dare threaten the Xuanji sect again for 100 years, for he had already eliminated all the rebels. The woman begged her master to stay. With newfound determination, the leader addressed his disciples of Xuanji sect, stressing the importance of humility and dedicated cultivation. He had sacrificed his own strength to ensure their future peace, but he wouldn't always be their shield. They needed to become self-sufficient. After a century of secluded training, the man, now known as Ye Shen, emerged. Walking into a bustling city after 100 years, he observed the world with a mix of curiosity and disorientation. His outdated attire attracted attention, and he silently acknowledged the wisdom in his decision to leave his disciples to their own path. As the man entered the city, he spotted a stall selling wooden figurines. He picked one up, captivated by its detail. But his admiration halted abruptly as he focused on its face. It bore an uncanny resemblance to him. Curious, he asked the shopkeeper if these figurines depicted renowned gods. To his surprise, the shopkeeper pleaded with him to raise a hand and lightly strike him, claiming there were gods 3 inches above his head and urging him to turn back. Bewildered by the shopkeeper's bizarre behavior, the man recalled the saying, "There are gods 3 inches above your head," and instinctively looked up. What he saw sent a jolt through him. Standing before him, sculpted in the exact style and attire as himself, was a statue, but it was inscribed with the words Wuji sect, a name that confused him deeply. Shouldn't it be Xuanji sect? He pondered, referring to his own title. He frowned and thought about the name Wuji sect. He thought back to the 2 girls who were chased by this sect just now. Could it be? Lost in his thoughts, the man was suddenly swarmed by a group of people. One man, with accusatory shouts, claimed he was impersonating the statue deity to swindle the populace, leading them to fearfully shut their doors. Behind him stood shrouded women, one of whom, visibly enraged, drew her sword and demanded a confession. Utterly bewildered, the man questioned the accusations. He was in his own attire, so why was he being painted as a troublemaker? He then pointed towards the statue, inquiring about Xuanji sect. Before he could say anything, he heard the order to arrest him. Then, the group of black-clothed women jumped up and swung their whips to surround him, even though he had not yet had the chance to explain himself. Everything was in chaos. The 8 Gates golden lock formation was set up to capture him. In the blink of an eye, his entire body was wrapped in dozens of iron chains. He regained his composure after a few seconds and turned slightly. All the chains were immediately shattered. The black-clothed women were all shocked by the man's ability. This formation was taught by His Majesty himself, yet it was easily broken by a fake god and demon. They looked at each other as if they wanted to say something, and then nodded at the same time as if they understood the problem. All the women immediately tore off their black cloaks, revealing their beautiful bodies inside with their bold and revealing clothes. The man was stunned. He didn't know what was going on. The women surrounded him and started to seduce him. They said that they were the disciples of the Wuji sect and that they had been waiting for him for 100 years. The man was confused and didn't know what to do. The man blushed and covered his eyes with his hand because of this overly seductive scene. He kept saying that this method would not work on him, but it seemed that at this moment he could not close his hands tightly, revealing that he was intently watching the girls in front of him. After tidying up their clothes, the girls took out paper firecrackers from their bodies and pulled them out, welcoming Ye Shen to visit the Wuji sect. To Ye Shen's surprise, the cold women just now were now warmly holding on to him and asking him if he was the one who created the Golden Lock formation. Ye Shen did not deny it, but because of this, he was dragged to the Quanlin Lao, where the majesty that the women mentioned was waiting for him. He hesitated and didn't want to go, but he was still dragged by the women who were smiling and pulling him to the place called Quanlin Lao. Standing in front of the Quanlin Lao, he looked up and saw a red curtain fluttering in the wind. From inside the curtain, a woman's voice asked him if he was the one who broke the Golden Lock formation. He loudly declared that he was the one, and did not forget to introduce himself as the sect master, Ye Shen of the Xuanji sect. He expressed that this time he came here to ask about his sect. Why? Before he could finish speaking, a young girl flew out from the curtain at an incredible speed and rushed straight towards him. It had been 100 years since they last met. Was Yana, his disciple, still the little girl who didn't know how to wipe her nose and only knew how to cry? Too surprised, Ye Shen asked Luanyana to let go of him, but on the contrary, Yana refused. She had waited a long time for her master to come out of seclusion. This time, she could not let her master leave so easily. Even if she died, she and Ye Shen had to stay together.